Let's talk about India. Not the whole story, but just one single incredible week. It was a week that packed in a moment of pure genius, a huge economic threat, and a nation responding to a crisis, all happening at pretty much the same time. So, let's get into it.
You know, some weeks are just 7 days on a calendar. But this one? Wow. It was a snapshot, a story of triumph, of turmoil, and of teamwork. We saw India's biggest ambitions and its toughest challenges collide right in front of us.
And we're going to start with something that affects every single one of us, the environment. Because during this week, there is this huge nationwide push for a healthier planet, from the air we breathe to the water that keeps us going.
It's a big question, right? How do you actually know if you're making progress on something as massive as the environment? Well, it turns out one of the most powerful ways to do it is to actually recognize and reward the people and places that are leading the way.
And that's exactly what the National Clean Air Survey Awards are all about. On September 9th, this major government initiative put a spotlight on the cities that are making real, measurable progress in cleaning up the air for their citizens. 200 out of 200. Just let that sink in. That was the perfect score that the city of Indore achieved in the Clean Air Survey. I mean, that's an absolutely incredible achievement, and it sets a brand new benchmark for every other city in the country. And that green momentum didn't stop with awards. This week also kicked off Swachhotsav. The idea here is just brilliant. You take all that amazing collective energy from India's festival season and you channel it toward a cleaner, greener lifestyle. It's about weaving sustainability right into the fabric of celebration. And it wasn't just about the air. The focus expanded to our waters too. World Dolphin Day on September 12th wasn't just about celebrating a beautiful animal. It was about understanding that dolphins are what's called an indicator species. Basically, if they're healthy, it's a really good sign that our entire marine and river ecosystems are healthy too. So protecting them is really about protecting ourselves.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit now, from the domestic scene to the global arena. Because this same week delivered a story of two complete opposites. We're talking about a moment of unbelievable individual talent set against a massive international threat.
You really couldn't write a more dramatic contrast. On one side, you have this historic David versus Goliath victory for a teenage chess prodigy, and on the other, a threat that could shake a $100 billion industry to its core. This really captures the modern Indian story, doesn't it? Immense talent and deep economic challenges, both breaking within hours of each other.
So first, the triumph. 16. That's how old Abhimanyu Mishra was when he beat the reigning world chess champion, the youngest player in history to ever do that. It was just a breathtaking moment of sheer brilliance.
And then, the other side of the coin, 25%. That's the proposed excise duty from a new U.S. law that's aimed squarely at India's huge IT services industry, a potentially massive blow.
So this proposed Hire Act, it's basically designed to discourage outsourcing with a 1-2 punch. First, it would slap a 25% excise duty on services from foreign companies. And second, it would stop U.S. companies from being able to tax deduct those payments. It's a double whammy aimed right at the heart of the business model that fuels India's IT sector.
So with all these pressures and triumphs swirling around, the country was also quietly making moves to build for the future. And that brings us to innovation, where we saw some key developments in science, policy, and technology. For starters, a new leader took the helm at a really important national institute, one that's all about connecting scientific research with public policy and communication. Dr. Geetavani Raisam stepped into that role. And her vision, which she laid out right away, is crystal clear: strengthen India's knowledge economy. In other words, let's get better and faster at turning great science into smart policy and strong global partnerships.
And speaking of partnerships, that was the whole idea behind a new initiative called Aspire. It brings together defense innovation and education with a really powerful goal. Let's develop advanced dual-use technologies, stuff that can be used for both military and civilian needs. The idea is to speed up innovation for everybody.
All right, for the last piece of this week's puzzle, we have to turn to something much more serious, a story of teamwork and response when faced with disaster. Because while the nation celebrated and innovated, it also had to confront a devastating crisis.
The situation in Punjab was just dire. We're talking about unprecedented floods and cloudbursts that led to catastrophic damage. It was a crisis on a massive scale, with countless families affected.
The central government's response was swift, and it was big. After the Prime Minister conducted an aerial survey,
A special relief package was announced immediately, 1,600 crore rupees for Punjab.
And to really get the full picture here, that 1,600 crore, that was on top of 12,000 crore rupees that had already been allocated. So we are talking about a massive mobilization of resources to help the state and its people when they needed it most.
So a chess prodigy, a trade threat, environmental action, and a natural disaster, all in 1 week? When you pull it all together, what does it tell us? Well, 4 really clear themes start to emerge.
It was a week of striking contrasts, wasn't it? We saw this incredible moment of individual triumph on the world stage right up against a huge economic challenge. We saw proactive action for a sustainable future right alongside a massive response to a crisis happening right now. Triumph, challenge, action, and response, all at once.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway. This 1 week shows us a nation that is just buzzing with energy. It's grappling with its future, it's celebrating its geniuses, it's confronting its challenges, and it's coming together in hardship. It's a nation that is clearly in motion. And that leaves us with the essential question. With all these different currents pulling in all these different directions, where does it all lead?